Mr. Knight, you may continue.
Ms. Voss, on this exhibit, are they in line on dates?
Exhibit 341.
Yes.
I know the ER 904 that I put together was sort of, but what happened after that, I really can't be sure. So I received several bundles of records.
Okay, I found what I was looking for, thank you.
So are we still on exhibit?
We're still in exhibit
341?
341, yes.
Okay.
Because I went to my stuff that I need to cross-reference that I
understand.
Okay, on 341, on page 160 of 355, it's Chloe Knight, dated 5/21/21 at 3:41 p.m.
Were you able to locate that page?
Yes.
Okay.
So I believe that page is actually the second page of the session information. That's on page 159 of 355. I think that's, or is that?
That looks like a different date.
It is.
7.
Hold on, wait a minute. Oh, okay. No, that's the first page. 160 is the first page of a 2-page document. I want to refer to page 161. Ms. Voss, can you identify page 161?
It appears to be the second page of the session dated 5/21/21 with Amanda Marquez at Consejo with Rice.
Can you tell me what the content of that paragraph there is where it starts, client went on to report?
You want me to read it?
No, I would like you to tell me what the content of that is.
I guess I'll have to read it to give you a summary.
Okay.
So just looking at it briefly, I recall the record as Rice shared with Amanda, the therapist, about the incident where I brought Rice with me to serve you papers, or to have your neighbors serve you papers on the date, that date. Or not on this date, it was a couple weeks prior.
Does it appear to you that your action of taking Chloe to the father's house to be served made an impression on her?
I don't know that it was my driving Rice with that made the impression so much. It was it your behavior upon seeing me, upon seeing Rice, and what you chose to do that made the impression.
Did you choose to take Rice with you to her father's house so that you could have him served by his neighbor.
My having Rice with me had no impact on my serving you. I didn't choose to because I'm sorry, it's just the way you're structuring your sentences. I'm getting kind of lost in trying to connect dots.
Let me make it easier. When you make a choice to drive to a destination with a child in the car, is it your choice at that point to decide if that child is to go with you or not?
In this particular instance, I could have chosen to leave Rice by the side of the road. I didn't make that choice. I thought them staying with me because I was in a very tight time crunch from the time of filing papers before the courthouse closes at 4:30 to having you served before 5 o'clock, which was my understanding of the timeline on that. And so I chose to keep Rice with me in the car instead of leaving them by the side of the road. Looking back on the incident, I'm not sure which would have been a better choice.
Do you think that by having Rice present while you had Mr. Knight's neighbor serve him with documentation for a court hearing that you had a time crunch on, do you think that made a negative impression on Rice towards her father?
I think your actions had a negative impact on Rice.
Would Mr. Knight have had those reactions if you had not arrived at his home?
I can only speculate as to what you would or would not have done had I not been there. You seem to be in a state.
Please define state.
You seemed not in control of your faculties.
And who was in control of my faculties?
I don't know that anyone was.
So, in your opinion, in this court, you didn't make the choice to take Chloe to her father's house, and her father had no control over his emotions, and you had no responsibility for any of this. Is this what I'm hearing?
Objection.
What's the
There
objection?
are so many misrepresentations in this statement that I'm sorry, I'm withdrawn. No, that is not what I stated.
Can you tell when somebody is in control of themselves and when they are not?
In this instant, you did not appear to be trying to control yourself. In this instance, you appeared to be acting incredibly erratically, putting on quite a show.
Wasn't it stated at the beginning of this case that all the restraining orders were dropped, but court strongly recommended that both parties stay away from each other's homes to reduce any conflict? Do you remember a statement from the courts that resemble that?
There is an order that stated both parties, and I'm paraphrasing, both parties shall not go to each other's residences.
Can you tell me what date or approximately what date that was filed?
The order was issued on September 2nd, 2020.
Okay. So that order was in standing place when you presented documentation to Mr. Knight on this day?
I did not present documentation to you. The order was in place, yes.
Okay.
I had your neighbor serve you papers. I stayed as far away from your home as possible.
Did you not put a Google map picture as evidence in this case of where you were parked?
Yes.
Great. So, did it appear that you were parked in a cul-de-sac
Yes.
with a well house in the middle of the cul-de-sac?
Yes.
Isn't it true that you were parked within 75 feet of Mr. Knight's front door?
I'm not good at judging distances. I can't tell you.
So it could have been 20 feet in front of the door.
No, I don't think so. It might have been 75. It might have been 200. I was as far away as possible.
As far away as possible. Okay. Wouldn't a far away as possible would be sitting at your home having a person serve those papers so your daughter would not be exposed to it? Wouldn't that be as far away as possible?
No, I suppose the other side of the earth or maybe the atmosphere. It was not possible for me to have a person serve you those documents on that day in question. This was my the only available option.
So on that day you decided to violate a court order to stay away from Mr. Knight's house so that you could take your daughter Chloe to Mr. Knight's residence and park within eye shot and verbal shot of his home to have him served because you only had that opportunity to get him served so that you could take him to court.
Objection, compound sentence. Question?
I don't think it was compound. I think he built it, but I think that the question at the end is.
Okay. I'm sorry, there were so many components. Can you please rephrase the question?
Okay. Did you not just admit that due to the time crunch that you chose to go against the September 2nd order that states that you stay away from my house, I stay away, paraphrasing, what you just testified to, that because of the time crunch, you did not have time to have anybody else but Mr. Knight's neighbor to serve him while you watched and Chloe watched. Is this what I'm hearing?
You paraphrased the order inaccurately, and so that's where I got lost. I did not go to your house. That was what the order said. The parties shall go to each other's residence. I did not go to your residence.
Oh, okay. Does Mr. Knight live in a duplex?
Yes.
Is the neighbor that you had serve him live right in the same duplex building?
Yes.
Is his garage right next door to Mr. Knight's garage?
I can't recall exactly.
Were you parked in his driveway?
I was parked in the cul-de-sac that serves many different duplexes in a circle. I was in the.
How many different duplexes?
I can't be certain. Three or four is my guess, but.
Was it your intent to allow Chloe to see this so that you could influence her opinion towards her father?
No.
Do you think the outcome of your actions caused Chloe to have a different outlook towards her father?
I think there were, there is a part that I am responsible for in that I brought rice with. Did I cause your behavior? No. I think you're responsible for your own actions. I don't know if it would have been better to leave Rice by the side of the road, but that was the only alternative. It's regrettable the way it turned out. I did not want Rice to see that.
So due to the time crunch, you had left Rice at Consejo Counseling, correct?
Correct.
You went to the courthouse and filed your documentation while Rice is at Consejo, correct?
Correct.
You then went back and picked up Rice from Consejo Counseling, correct?
Correct.
Then you proceeded to Mr. Knight's neighbor's home to have him served with the documentation, correct?
I did not go to your neighbor's home. He was out in the yard.
So you pulled up in front of my neighbor's yard and asked him, or actually entered his yard and asked him to provide, serve these paperwork, and he asked you to get out of his yard because he has a vicious dog that had not noticed you yet. Is that part of what happened?
No.
No? Okay.
Some parts, but again, you keep putting things together in sentences that
So where does Mr. Knight live?
906A East Phillips Lake Road,
Where does Miss Voss live?
101 East Old Line Road.
So if you're leaving Shelton from Consejo Counseling and going to Phillips Lake Road, do you not drive within a couple miles of your home?
A couple miles, yes, I could not have made it in time.
So you could not have made it to your home and dropped Rice off before you proceeded to 906 Phillips Lake Road. So you had not the time to do that? Is that what I'm hearing?
I could not have made it to your house and had you served before 5 o'clock.
Does your...
That's my testimony, yes.
Okay. You felt that was very important, did you not?
I did.
Does your feelings supersede Rice's feelings?
No.
Did you consider Rice's feelings before you went and had her father served?
Yes.
Would it have changed the results of the hearing if the timeline would have been postponed a couple of days?
Yes.
Did you win that hearing?
When?
Did you prevail in that hearing?
In some parts, yes, some parts, no.
Did it make Rice's life safer?
I don't know.
But by you prevailing on that hearing, did the results from that hearing help Rice be in a safer state?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Ms. Voss, do you feel, as Chloe's mother or Rice's mother, that you have influence over her?
I have influence over our child, yes. He prefers the pronouns they, them.
find this really fast, I think. I think I can anyway. I would like to go to page 152 of 355.
Same exhibit.
Yes, same exhibit. It's a 3-page exhibit.
I found it.
Okay. On page 2, second paragraph, can you refresh your memory with this? Read that
I'm
little
sorry, you
section.
said page 2.
It's
So you're
page 2 of the exhibit,
Sure you,
or of what I'm,
are you on 153 then?
it would be 153, yes, that would
Okay,
be
thank you.
page 2,
Okay, of this chart note.
yes, of this chart note.
Okay, thank you.
Second paragraph down, where it starts, therapist went on to ask the client. So if you could refresh your memory on this, I would like to ask you a couple questions. Okay. So this is talking, the therapist talking with Chloe, and Chloe had stated that in here that, let me see here, where it states that Mr. Knight had struck her on the lower back and buttocks. Is that a definition of a spanking?
I believe so.
Okay. So it also states in here that the father calls them by their dead name. Do you think it's the father's responsibility to aid in an identity crisis?
I don't characterize this as an identity crisis.
Can you explain to me what dead name means?
The name that is given at birth or even sometimes later, in a name that is no longer being used by the individual, it is dead, and so there is a new name to be used. Any reference to that prior name, as I understand, reflects a violation of the privilege of the individual, their right to privacy of former name and or gender.
So couldn't a dead name be classified as a legal name change, and the previous name would be considered dead because it is no longer legally attached to the person?
No, there's different steps that need to be taken to have a legal change of name.
So wouldn't a dead name basically be the preference of the person that's requesting the dead name?
Yes, it is a preference.
Is it a law that everybody has to respect everybody's preferences?
No?
So, from this chart note, it is obvious here that Chloe was having family issues surrounding discipline and how she was interacting with her father.
Actually, I think it says they, them.
You have to speak up just a little bit.
I'm sorry, I think it actually says they, them, not she and her.
Okay. Thanks for the correction in the language of the chart, but can you answer my question?
Sorry, when you trigger me like that, I lose the question, so could you please?
How did I just trigger you?
I've made it clear, Rice has made it clear, Robin has made it clear that there are preferred names and pronouns, and your willful disregard for those preferences is triggering for me, for Rice, for others.
So my comfort in speaking has no consequence to you?
No, quite the opposite. I'm saying you choosing to speak however you want without regard to other people's feelings has an impact on other people.
Am I responsible for caring for your feelings?
I don't know what you're responsible for. In this context, you know, you could choose to be a decent person, you could choose not to. The law isn't going to correct that behavior. I don't know.
Do I have the power to say, you are now afraid?
No. Well,
Do
I'm
I
sorry,
have the
you
feeling,
power to
do
say
I
those
have the
words.
power to say, you are now anxious?
You have the ability to speak words.
Isn't it true that your feelings are your feelings and you are the only one responsible for controlling your feelings and not Mr. Knight?
I believe I have a responsibility in how I respond. I believe you have a responsibility in how you treat others. That whole empathy thing that we were asking about earlier, this is where that plays out. And a person with empathy would act in a manner so as to not offend or provoke others continuously, as you do. I believe that was one of the antisocial traits that were identified in your mental health evaluations.
Do you have proof of that?
Do I have proof that your prior evaluation identified antisocial traits? Yes, I have an exhibit. I have multiple exhibits to that effect.
Have they been presented and taken in as evidence?
One has.
The next. I'm going to be looking for a document 82120. It's a 3-page document in Exhibit 341.
8/21/20.
8/21/20 is the date.
162 or 355.
Have you found it?
I have, yes.
Okay, in this chart note, it indicates in here, if you'd like to read it to refresh your memory, we're talking. Chloe was talking about anime websites, and just having friends online and talking. In my opinion, talking to strangers. Do you see that type of dialogue going on in this?
Talking to people online, yes.
Isn't it true that the anime was causing issues in the past?
I don't believe anime itself causes issues. No, I think your perspective and your opinion of that and any, most anything that brings our daughter joy and your disdain
Most
for,
anything what?
that causes our daughter, our child, joy, and your disdain for those things is a very common thing, yes.
Isn't it true that Mr. Knight had brought up a discussion with you via emails about what he's seen as an issue with the anime that Rice was watching?
You have sent, I believe, our family wizard messages on the subject of anime, yes.
But isn't it true you just disregarded them because they weren't your opinions?
No, I didn't disregard them. I considered them. I talked to the therapist. I talked to Rice about them.
But you chose not to restrict the amount or type of anime that she was watching?
I kept an eye on it based on your concerns. But no, I didn't just do whatever you told me.
So when Mr. Knight brings up a concern, you just think he's telling you to do something?
Quite often, that is the exact language in the message. You've decided to do this and you want me to do that too. It's again that power and control thing that was identified in Ms. Johnson's report.
So when Mr. Knight makes a suggestion that he would like to have something done, do you see that as an opportunity to have a casual conversation and work around any issues we may have?
To characterize your statements as suggestions is inaccurate from my perspective. And again, because that word was used inaccurately, I don't recall the rest of the question. Can you please restate the question?
Sure. I'll change another one. Isn't it true that you can say that you're triggered so that you don't have to answer a question?
No.
No. Isn't it true that you just stated because of a statement I said you had triggered and forgot the question?
That is what I said, yes.
Isn't it true that you like to use the idea that Mr. Knight triggers you so you don't have to take blame for your own emotions?
Do I like to use it? No. I really wish this were not the situation we're in.
Did you know that Chloe had a TikTok account?
Yes. They still do?
They still have a TikTok account.
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that Chloe has made approximately 500 TikTok videos and put them online?
I don't know that your count is that's accurate. I know that, Rice makes, TikTok videos. Yes.
And in these TikTok videos, doesn't it show Rice at your home at like midnight while you're working on court documentations?
There are many videos, many are at your home, many are at my home, yes.
So-
Timestamp on each of them,
Isn't there video of Rice sitting at your home at midnight doing TikTok videos while you are on your computer doing court documentations?
I don't recall.
Hmm.
And I'm not sure where you might have gotten all that context. Can you
Ms.
refresh
Foster, have
me?
you ever watched Chloe's TikTok videos?
Yes, I follow Rice on TikTok so I can watch and see what they.
Do you
post
follow
and
Rice
stuff.
online a lot?
I follow a lot of what they do, yes.
Do you have an online name
On
that you
TikTok,
interact with Rice with?
depends on the format.
Depends on the format. So you have created an alternative name online to communicate with Rice online, correct?
In the case of Facebook, I use my actual name. In the case of TikTok, they don't allow you to use your actual name.
So have you joined any other online activities with Rice where you had to create a different name that you could interact with her on? Excuse me.
I can't recall if there was a game where we each created characters in the game to play. Perhaps, I can't be 100% certain.
So there is a possibility that Rice could talk to you with her Chromebook at my home with you having a different name, and Mr. Knight would never know you were on talking to Rice. Is this correct?
That calls for speculation as to what you do and do not know.
Do you communicate with Rice with an online name other than your own?
In the instance of TikTok, where they post a video,
Excuse me, Your Honor, I asked her a specific question.
and
I think she's answering it, go ahead.
in the case of TikTok, where they post a specific video, the reaction to the video is generally like a heart or a like or a thumbs up sort of thing. I think there may have been instances where they had shared what they want for Christmas, and I may have responded something, actual words in that. There's not a whole lot of communicating back and forth as much as there is just being aware and joining them in something they're interested in.
So, you're telling me, as Chloe's mother, and the fact that you want to communicate with your daughter, that you have never did a video chat with Chloe on Chromebook while she was at Mr. Knight's house without his knowledge?
I'm not aware that we have. Is that a problem?
Wait,
With-
it's not
sorry.
question, not the time to question, time to answer.
Have you or have you not did video chat with Rice at Mr. Knight's house?
Not that I recall.
Do you have a good memory, Ms. Voss?
Generally, I believe so. Although, I'm getting up there in years.
Ms. Voss, what time does Hayden and Chloe go to bed at your home?
During the school year, homeschool days is 10 o'clock is when I tell them to go to bed. When they choose to fall asleep after that, is up to them.
Isn't it true that at one point in this case, you had put in a declaration stating that the kids can stay up as late as they choose?
No.
Isn't it true that Chloe and Hayden were wanting to stay up till midnight and you were allowing them at your house, to do that at your house?
Do you mean while they were homeschooling and I was working in the mornings? Yes.
So you consistently allowed the children to stay up past midnight?
During a very specific period of time, I allowed them to stay up late, yes.
Did Mr. Knight indicate that the children need to stay on a scheduled bedtime?
Again, yes, you stated that what needs
Did
to
you
happen
follow
in
Wait
my...
a
the
second, wait a second, let her finish.
I said, you stated what needs to happen in my home, and that did not work for us.
So isn't there evidence that you allowed the children to stay up past midnight a lot, even though Mr. Knight has a bedtime of 10 p.m.?
Is there evidence? My admission, I suppose, might be evidence that I allowed them to stay up past midnight while COVID was going on and I was homeschooling them in the afternoons, yes. And that had...
Doesn't the record show in Consejo that there had been discussions of around bedtimes for Rice and Hayden?
You absolutely went to the therapist and, you know, put it out there that you feel certain things need to happen in my home. Yes, you try to use the therapist to bully the children and myself into doing what you wanted.
So you believe that by Mr. Knight stating that the children's bedtime should be 10 o'clock at night, that is bullying you and controlling your household?
I believe that your efforts to restrict my ability to work that have been going on since before our children were born is bullying, is abusive, is domestic violence, it is, yeah.
Ms. Voss, do you work in an office or do you work from your home?
I have been working from home
How long have you been working from home?
since COVID.
And where is your office?
The office is in Lacey.
It is in
Well,
Lacey.
I'm sorry. SCJ has a number of offices. I'm currently at the Lacey office is where my desk is.
So since our inflation in our society has reached the rate that it has today, if you were no longer able to do your job from home and you were required to drive to your job site, would that be a hardship on you?
It would.
Do you have an estimate of how much gas it would cost you alone?
It was a significant amount. It was at least $250, but it's also impossible for me to find a place to live that is near our Lacey office, and so I would be homeless if I had to move.
What if Mr. Knight objected to that statement because Mr. Knight is in the housing industry and he knows of many available apartments that you would be able to get into? What would your statement be on that?
I'd like to hear more about that.
I would like exhibit 355. I do believe this exhibit has been modified somewhat during our processes.
So if that's the case, before the clerk pulls it up,
I'm not exactly
355
sure, but I do think so. Just from look-
355 was entered as a complete document.
It is a complete document,
Yeah,
okay,
so clerk does not need a vote.
okay.
Assuming everybody has a copy, I think everybody does.
I have one.
Okay.
So I am going to be referring to page 31 of 149. So Ms. Voss, are you familiar with this document? Or letter from Pioneer School District?
From Martin Brewer, dated March 16th, 2018, yes.
So isn't this communications concerning your aggressive behavior over a 20-month period in communications and emails, messages, Facebook posts, comments, and meetings and personal actions?
The letter is in regard to my alleged activities, yes.
So you only allegedly did this?
That was the allegation. I asked for them to provide evidence, who, what, where, when, and they failed to do so.
So that made you right?
No, it denied me a fair chance of knowing or defending myself against this allegation. No due process.
Isn't it true, Ms. Voss, that the school provides you with every information request and all the forms every single time that you have asked for them?
No, I've got at least 14 documented requests to inspect my children's records that have been ignored over the past couple of years.
How often do you inspect your children's records at Pioneer School District?
The last time I was permitted to inspect their records was in 2016.
20 what?
16.
So did you have medical decision making to change any of the medical records that you're alleging the school didn't allow you to look over?
I don't need medical decision making to inspect my children's records. I
So
have a
we're-
right to that information.
Isn't it true that the reason why you were inspecting the children's records was to see if all of the documentation and paperwork that you had provided to them had been put into their file?
There were a number of things I was looking for or wanted to see that I was not able to even look at their files. What happened to the information I gave them? Why was the information not retained? Was certainly one of the many questions.
Now, Ms. Voss, it is true and proven that parents have the rights to speak with the school about their children.
Yes, generally. Most parents do. My rights have been abridged.
During the COVID pandemic, do you think that the COVID procedures on how to interact hindered you from getting information from the school district when you made your requests?
No.
Did you make requests to inspect the children's documentations during the last 2 years?
I believe I previously testified that I've got at least 14 documented, written, signed requests over the past couple of years, yes.
So during the COVID outbreak, you were requesting to go into their building and inspect documentation? Is this what I'm hearing?
I believe beginning 2017 up until present, I have made this request, yes. Before, during, and after, well, not that we're after COVID pandemic, but after the physical shutdown.
Now, Ms. Voss, you're very thorough most of the time, and it works in my benefit most of the time because you're so thorough. But I have a letter here from Pioneer School District that I have as Exhibit 123, and it is a letter to you by John Gimmel on September 13th, 2019.
Did you say exhibit 123?
It would be my Exhibit 123, yes.
And I believe, exhibit 354 was admitted.
So it's in your 354 that would...
Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's a note to myself.
Okay. So, can we locate this in your exhibits?
Can you?
I am asking you, is there a possibility for me to locate it in your exhibits?
I believe so, if you were to take the time to do so.
Okay. Sir, I would like to pull my Exhibit 123, please.
I think she has that.
I have my own copy, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can you identify the date on this letter and where it's from?
September 13th, 2019, from Superintendent John Gummel, the second superintendent. We're on our fourth now.
Did you receive this letter from the Pioneer School District?
I believe I did, yes.
Can you indicate what the content, the high points of the content of this letter is?
I believe this was sent to me immediately after Hayden shared letters to staff that year, and Mr. Gummel reiterated that was not acceptable, and the information I shared was not not looked favorably upon, I believe, by you.
Was
And
this letter sent to you prior to the school board meeting?
this was 2019, I believe this was a year later.
A year later. Okay. So this is discussing how Miss Terry is your point of contact in the school, correct?
Yep.
Can you explain why Miss Terry became your only point of contact in the school?
I have my theories. Based on the information that she provided in an email, families choose how to communicate, and you are the decision maker of our family, and so you chose how and when and to whom I communicate.
So that's your theory?
That's my understanding based on the evidence.
Did you harass, intimidate, and bully the school teachers by sending them unnecessary documentations and questions?
No, you deemed the information I sent unnecessary. The teachers did not. They said they were very appreciative and it was helpful information.
So, can you state in here, show me in this letter where it states that Mr. Knight,
It doesn't. That's not the story that the school's selling.
that's the story you're selling.
No, that's what I have understood from the available evidence.
Oh. Even though the school continues to send you documentation stating that your privileges for communication would increase if you would control yourself in a better fashion.
There's no such thing. I have not seen anything of the sort.
Did your abilities to communicate with school staff increase at one point when a new superintendent had arrived, like Jill Dill, and then it was retracted?
No.
Okay.
No, it has
You're gonna make me pull it all out, okay.
decreased. Every time you got unhappy, communication was tightened.
How, okay, it appears, does it not appear, no, hold on, let me change how I'm gonna do that. Ms. Voss, you make the statement that every time Mr. Knight gets unhappy, the school does what he tells them to do. Is that a true statement that you made?
I didn't say the school does what you tell them to do, but there are records indicating that the school cannot consider this information because Mr. Knight said not to consider it, and so it was returned to me again and again.
So, Ms. Voss, what does the final parenting plan state concerning schools?
You want to be a little bit more specific? You have educational decision-making. There are specific parts in there about the 504 plan. You also have medical decision-making, which gets you in through the HIPAA door on medical issues.
Do you have those abilities in the current parenting plan the way it is written?
Those abilities.
The abilities that Mr. Knight, or no, they really wouldn't be abilities, would they? The authority that was given to Mr. Knight through the family court case of 2017. Do you have that authority given to you by the courts to go in and change anything at the school level or a doctor's office? Let's just restrict it to the school level.
The parenting plan says that you have decision-making over major educational decisions. The parenting plan does not restrict my ability to give or receive information to any of the children's providers. And so, by providing information to the school, I'm within the rights afforded me under the parenting plan, and the school district policy requires that parents provide information about their children's health issues, and so I am required and not forbidden or prohibited by the parenting plan to provide information to the school.
Do the school districts have the right to follow their policies and procedures around communications with parents?
I believe they have a responsibility to follow their policies and procedures.
Is it Mr. Knight's authority to go to the school and say, exclude Miss Voss?
It appears to be within your authority to do that with both medical providers and with the school, yes.
Now, is that appearance to you, or is that appearance to everybody around?
It is apparent based on the evidence, which I hope the court will see.
So it is apparent to you, but you're saying that it is not apparent to everybody around.
I don't go around showing everyone and trying to prove my case as you do. My aim is to demonstrate to the court certain things. Not my neighbors, not the school, not, no. This matter is not something I talk about to everyone.
Ms. Voss? Are you saying you don't talk to anybody about your opinions of Mr. Knight?
Objection. I'm sorry, I don't know the objection to the constant mischaracterization of fact. I don't think there is an objection hyperbolic, so, withdrawn. Can you please repeat the question?
Don't you go around telling everybody your opinion about what you think of Mr. Knight?
No, I don't.
Do you tell people how grateful you are that Mr. Knight's the children's father?
No.
Do you tell your friends that Mr. Knight done a great job on having a birthday party for Chloe/Rice? Or anything in a positive manner?
No, I was not aware that you'd arranged. Yeah. By the way, it is Rice's birthday today. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Do I have anything positive to say about you? As when we were ordered to develop a communication plan back in 2010.
Objection, in lenum, bring it up to date.
Okay, so, state the question one more time, and then we'll go from there.
Has Mr. Knight, do you ever tell anybody about positive things that Mr. Knight has done?
As I wrote to you in 2010 by order of the court that we did develop
Objection,
a communication plan.
limine.
Yeah, but you said, have you ever?
Okay.
So when you say, have you ever,
Okay.
you can answer if it's ever happened.
Okay, I just gotta check my questions.
As I wrote in 2010, I will always tell the children positive things about you, and in that letter I listed by example, Rice has your beautiful blue eyes, and Hayden is going to grow big and strong like his daddy.
And that was in 2010.
It was.
Have you made any other, more recent, within the last 5 years, positive statements to people about Mr. Knight?
Yes.
And what would that positive statement be?
I fairly recently had a conversation where I was describing your gift, your uncanny gift to get people to just believe what you're saying without question, and to just jump right on the bandwagon and do what you want. And if you had used that gift for the betterment of our children, they would be so much better off, instead of using it to get people to do what you want and for your own interests.
Ms. Voss, to me, that does not sound like a positive statement. Can you explain to me how you feel that is a positive statement?
You have a gift that I admire. You have the ability to articulate things, to get people to believe things, and to feel passionate about your cause in a way that I don't.
Are you jealous of Mr. Knight?
So, Mr. Knight, you're going down this path, and I'm now questioning the relevance of those type of questions.
The relevance is state of mind of petitioner on how she reacts to Mr. Knight due to her own beliefs. And I'm gonna veer away from it now. I'm getting to the end of my questions anyway. Okay. That was my exhibit, 123, but I do believe I would like to offer that as an exhibit.
Is it already inside another exhibit?
I believe it is, Ron.
Well, okay, so is there an objection to it if it's not another exhibit? And I do know that we have several Pioneer School District records. I'm looking at 354, 355, and 356. And there may be others.
And I believe this would be in 355. So no objection.
Okay, so,
It's already in there.
Right, so if it's not in there, you don't object?
I think,
I'm not admitting it right now because I'm gonna find out.
right, and, you know, I think it would be important to have the actual author explain this, and so I would argue as to the weight, at least in terms of,
Okay, so
there is a letter.
it is a letter, it is hearsay, and so I'm just asking if there's an objection, unless it's already, I guess my question is, are you objecting this as exhibit 123 as hearsay, recognizing it may already be in somewhere?
Right, right. No, I'm not objecting, and
Okay, so, I'm gonna do, sorry, Madam Clerk, I'm gonna do a provisional, admission of exhibit 123. And I'm only gonna say it's provisional because it might already be admitted. Again, I'm trying to keep a clean record. But I will have an opportunity to review prior to us starting back up again at 2:30. Or 2:45.
Okay, I don't know if this one, okay. Can I get exhibit 125, please?
Well, okay, so if everybody has 125, the clerk will need a vote for herself. In case there's
I'm gonna make an
issue.
offer.
Right, I understand. So, but as far as everybody looking at it, we can
Right.
look at it in your own records.
Just to verify, that's your ER 90425?
Correct.
Since I didn't get another copy of exhibits, I'm just piecing together what you've given me in ER 904s.
Added 100 and called it an exhibit. Okay, Ms. Voss, are you looking at an email from Jill Dill dated September 22, 2020?
And I believe I did object to this in the ER 904 as hearsay. Yes, it is an email from Jill Deal.
Was it to you?
To me and copied to you, yes.
Okay. Now, in this documentation, isn't this documentation talking about,
Objection content, hearsay.
Okay, you're talking about a document that's not in evidence.
okay,
So you need to deal with the, if you wish to get into the content, you need to address having it admitted.
okay. So this was emailed directly to you, Ms. Voss, correct?
Yes.
And you read this, correct?
Yes.
And you responded to this, correct?
I did.
I would like this admitted as evidence that Ms. Voss has admitted that she knows all content of this and has addressed it.
Any objection to 125?
Yes, I object as to hearsay.
What's the exception to hearsay?
It is referring to what appears to be a criminal act done by Ms. Voss, sent by the Pioneer School District superintendent, and Ms. Voss acknowledged that she read it and addressed it. So this is a conversation that Ms. Voss admitted to having with the school.
Doesn't defeat the hearsay rule, so the objection is sustained.
Isn't it true, Ms. Voss, that at one point in history, you went to the Pioneer School District and went through an employee's desk and took pictures of signatures of staff members, Mr. Knight, anybody who happened to be on that page?
No.
That's not true?
No.
Oh. Was there ever a letter sent to you from the school district stating that, Ms. Voss?
I don't recall.
You don't recall. Do you recall talking about this during a hearing in October of 2020? I think it may have been October 5th.
Wait a second, I didn't hear the answer. What was the
I said I may have, I can't recall.
I believe that hearing may have had this evidence from October 5th of 2020. In that hearing, you don't recall ever discussing this in court, that you went to the school and took pictures of an employee's desk with paperwork. You don't recall ever doing that?
What you're characterizing is not what I stated. I do recall having, talking or writing about what actually happened, which is not what you're saying.
Okay. Can you define in your own words, in your from your view of what happened on that date?
The date that the restraining order lapsed and you were no longer restrained to go onto the school grounds, you changed the children's school. And I had no information about that you had withdrawn them from school and changed them into another curriculum. I went to the district office to find out what's the deal. How are my kids, our children, supposed to attend school, what, I needed more information, and while I was waiting there was a sign-in form on the front edge of the front desk for people to sign in to meet with different people of the district. I went to sign in and I saw your name and I took a picture of the date that you signed in, which was the 21st of September, and you came and you did something, and I was trying to figure out what's going on because you weren't answering any of my emails on the subject. You weren't answering the children's emails on the subject. They were getting flooded with emails from a new teacher saying, "Welcome to Pioneer Academy." We were all confused. That's what happened.
Okay,
So,
with that, we're gonna stop.
okay,
It's a little bit after noon. So, we're
Okay.
gonna start up again at 2:45.
Okay,
And if we're a little bit late because of things, that's fine.
okay, thank you, Your Honor.
we're gonna, okay, so she's gonna go get the children and take them to her house, and we'll start back at 2:45.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Do we have all the exhibits back?
I didn't get any this time.
Yeah, we got it. Okay. Court is in recess.